Nora was standing in the middle of my kitchen at 7:15 on a Friday night, trying to zip up a dress that clearly had opinions about the situation. And I was doing my best to pretend I helped friends with their zippers all the time. The dress was burgundy, the kind of deep red that looked like it had been made specifically to cause problems for people who were supposed to be just friends. The zipper had snagged somewhere near the middle of her back, right where the fabric pulled tightest, and she had one arm twisted behind her in a way that looked genuinely painful. "I need you to not make this weird," she said. "I'm not making it weird. You're breathing differently." "I'm breathing normally." She looked not your normal breathing shoulder. Callum, that was the thing about Nora Ashby. That was the thing about Nora Ashby. She had been paying attention to me for 3 years, which meant she had cataloged things I didn't even know I did. My normal breathing. The way I tapped my thumb when I was thinking. The exact face I made when I was lying about being fine. She knew all of it, and she used it with zero mercy. I found the snag, worked the zipper up slowly, and made myself think about literally anything else. The hockey game that had been on before she arrived. The oil change I kept forgetting to book. The fact that my landlord still hadn't fixed the heating in the hallway. "There," I said. She turned around and checked her reflection in the dark window above my sink, because I didn't have a full-length mirror and she had never once let me forget it. She looked the way she always looked when she was trying not to show she was nervous. Too still. Shoulders set a fraction too high. That particular line between her eyebrows that showed up when she was running worst-case scenarios in her head. Nora worked in hospitality management at the Lakemont, which was the kind of hotel in downtown Toronto that had a waiting list for its New Year's reservations, and a sommelier who took himself very seriously. She had been there for 4 years, working her way from event coordinator to managing the entire banquet and private dining operation. Tonight was the annual winter gala for one of their biggest corporate clients, a tech company called Ardent that booked the entire ballroom. And then some 400 guests, a silent auction, a 3-course dinner, and a live band that Nora had personally negotiated the contract with back in September. She was supposed to bring her boyfriend, Trevor. Trevor had decided 2 weeks ago that he needed space to figure out what he actually wanted, which turned out to mean that he wanted to spend his evenings texting someone from his climbing gym. Nora had found out on a Tuesday. She had shown up at my apartment on that same Tuesday with a container of leftover butter chicken from her fridge, sat on my couch and said, "He wasn't even sorry. He just looked relieved." Then she ate the butter chicken and watched a documentary about octopuses and went home. And I hadn't heard her cry once. That was Nora. She didn't fall apart. She just got quieter in the places where the hurt was and kept moving. So when she asked me 2 days ago if I would come tonight as her +1, as the same way as Seed, I said yes to everything she asked, immediately and without needing to hear the rest of the sentence. "You look great," I said, because she did, and because I thought I could say it in a normal voice. She tilted her head. That was a very careful sentence, Callum. It was a compliment. It had punctuation I could hear. I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair. "You're reading into punctuation now." She looked at me for 1 second longer than she needed to. Then she picked up her clutch from the counter and said, "Let's go. And if the hotel is on fire when we get there, I need you to act like it was always supposed to be this way." "I've been doing that for 3 years, I said. She laughed, but she was already heading for the door, and she didn't turn around, so she didn't see my face after I said it. The Lakemont looked exactly like what it was, which was a place designed to make money feel comfortable. The exterior was limestone and glass, soft gold light spilling from every window. A uniformed doorman who nodded at Nora by name. Inside, the lobby smelled like cedar and something expensive I couldn't identify. The marble floors caught the light from a chandelier that probably cost more than my car. Nora stopped just past the entrance and I watched it happen. The shift. One breath, and then she was different. Not fake, just sharpened. Her chin came up. The line between her eyebrows disappeared. The smile appeared, professional and warm and completely in control. I had seen it at smaller events. A birthday dinner she'd organized for a client last spring. A corporate lunch in the fall. But here, with 400 guests and a full ballroom, and her name on every detail, it was something else entirely. A woman in a headset appeared at her elbow almost immediately. Nora. She had a tablet in both hands and the look of someone who had already solved 3 problems in the last 10 minutes. "I'm Priya," Nora said. "Tell me worst thing first." Priya blinked. "Okay. The string quartet is set up in the wrong position. They're blocking the east entrance to the dining room. Fixable. 2 of the centerpieces in the outer hall didn't arrive. Annoying and fixable. And Ardent's VP of Operations just told his assistant he wants a gluten-free option that wasn't on the original contract." For the first time, Nora's expression shifted. I looked between them. "I'm guessing that one is less fixable." Priya gave me a quick, apologetic smile. "Hi. I'm Priya. Less fixable." Nora was already scanning the room. "Where is Chef Renard right now?" "Prep kitchen. He's been on since 3. Go find him. Tell him I need a clean protein and vegetable plate that actually looks intentional. Not like we pulled it from the staff meal." Priya nodded. "Move the quartet to the side of the entrance. They'll have more acoustic space anyway, and the guest flow will work better. And tell Arden's assistant that the option is being personally arranged by the hotel. And it will be ready before service. Don't say we don't have it. Say we're refining it." Priya was already walking. Nora turned to me. "I just watched you solve 3 problems in 90 seconds, I said. She straightened a cufflink on my jacket that did not. "That was 1.5 problems. The centerpieces are still outstanding. Where are they supposed to come from?" "A florist on King Street, who I am going to have a very thorough conversation with on Monday." She moved toward the ballroom entrance, and I followed her, which was where I spent most of the next hour. Being a +1 at a Nora Ashby event meant staying useful without becoming a liability. I carried a stack of printed programs from the registration table to the dining room when the runner got held up at coat check. I spent 15 minutes talking to an ardent board member named Gerald who had strong opinions about the future of downtown office space, which kept him from finding Nora to share those opinions at her. I intercepted a photographer who was trying to set up in front of the bar before service and redirected him to the better light near the north windows, which made him feel like it was his idea. Every few minutes I saw her across the room. She was everywhere. She checked the table settings with 2 fingers along the edge of each plate. She spoke briefly to the band, then to the sommelier, then to a woman in a silver dress, who turned out to be the VP of Ardent herself. And somehow all 3 conversations looked like the easiest thing she'd done all day. But I knew the tells. Her left hand pressing flat against her hip when she stood still, her champagne glass picked up and set back down without drinking from it. The way she smiled at someone, and then, the moment they turned away, blinked once, slowly, like she was resetting. I found her near the silent auction tables, while she was cross-referencing bid sheets against her clipboard. "You're doing the posture thing," I said quietly, coming up beside her. "What posture thing?" "The one where your spine looks like it's made of something load-bearing." She kept her eyes on the clipboard. "I'm standing normally. You're standing like the hotel's structural integrity is personally your responsibility." That got her. Just the corner of her mouth, but it was there. She glanced at me sideways. "I hate that you can tell." "No, you don't." She held my gaze for half a second. "No, I don't." And then someone behind us said her name, and the moment closed like a window. I turned before she did. Trevor was standing 6 feet away in a charcoal suit that fit well, and a confidence that fit better, the kind of ease that came from never having questioned whether he belonged somewhere. He was handsome in a low-effort way, which I had noticed when Nora introduced us 8 months ago, and tried not to think about after that. He smiled. Nora. Nora. You look incredible. Nora said his name the way you said something that surprised you, but that you weren't going to let surprise you. Flat, careful. His eyes moved to me. Then back to her. I didn't realize you'd replace the spot so quickly. I felt her go stills beside me. I put out my hand. Callum. Trevor shook it with a smile that said he was doing me a favor. Right. The best friend. Nora kept her face completely neutral. Which is more than Trevor deserved. We should get back to it, she said, and she took my sleeve without ceremony and steered us toward a side corridor near the service entrance. Behind a door marked staff only. Past stacked linens and a trolley of clean glassware. The door closed behind us. She dropped her shoulders and exhaled. I'm sorry, she said. Not to me specifically, just at the floor. He wasn't supposed to come. His company bought a table. I thought he'd skip it. She pressed the back of her hand against her cheek, the way she did when she was more affected than she wanted to be. I was so close to getting through the whole night without. I know. She looked up. You don't have to do anything. I know that. She studied me for a moment. That seemed to matter to her in a way she didn't explain. Then the door opened and Priya appeared, slightly out of breath. Good news and bad news, Priya said. Nora straightened. Bad news. The gluten-free plate is handled. Chef Renard actually had a really nice salmon he was saving, so that's solved. And the bad news. Priya hesitated. The centerpieces. The delivery driver called. His van has a flat on the Gardener. He says he's 20 minutes out, but that seems optimistic. Nora looked at me. No, she said, reading something in my face before I'd said it. You're wearing a dress shirt. I've worn worse things in worse situations. You don't know where they need to go. I can carry boxes, Nora. I've been doing it since before we met. Tell me what I'm looking for and where it goes, and I'll figure out the rest. Priya said quietly. He seems very useful. Nora looked at me for a moment longer than she needed to. Something shifted in her expression, something open. And a little worried and too warm for a service corridor. The van's meeting point is on Bremner, Priya said. I can send someone with you. No, I said. Give me the contact number. I'll sort it. Nora reached up and fixed my collar, which didn't need fixing. Then she left her hand there for 1 second, a very specific second. You don't have to. I know, I said again, and the way she heard it this time was different from the other times. Priya pointed me down the corridor and I went. The delivery driver's name was Paolo, and he was parked half on the curb on Bremner, with his hazard lights on, and a defeated look that suggested this was not his first flat tire this month. The centerpieces were in the back of the van in individual boxes, 12 of them, tall arrangements of white cedar branches and ivory roses, and those little battery-powered lights that were supposed to look like candles. I called Priya, and she arranged a hotel luggage cart to meet me on the side entrance. Together with Paolo and a bellhop named Gordon, who took an immediate and personal interest in getting this done correctly, we transferred all 12 boxes in 2 trips. By the time we had them unwrapped and placed on the tables in the outer hall, my shirt was untucked on one side, and I had a small cedar scratch on the back of my hand and approximately no dignity left. Gordon surveyed the finished tables with the expression of a man who had spent a long career making things look right. There, he said simply. That's the way they were supposed to look. I agreed and tipped him what I had in my jacket pocket, which he accepted with a nod, like we had served together in something. I found Nora near the ballroom entrance. She was in conversation with a couple who had the comfortable look of people who donated to things regularly, and she saw me before I reached her. Her gaze moved over my untucked shirt and the cedar scratch, and something crossed her face that she smoothed away quickly, but not quickly enough. She excused herself and came toward me. You got them all in, all 12. Gordon from the luggage team was the real hero. I'm just the one who looked worse doing it. She reached over and tucked in the side of my shirt, which was familiar and completely normal, and also somehow not those things at all right now. You keep doing things, she said quietly, like it was a thought she hadn't meant to say out loud. Things like carrying boxes. She looked up. Things that make it harder to pretend I'm not paying attention. Every sound in the lobby seemed to move sideways. I looked at her hand, still resting against my side. Nora. She stepped back, and her expression closed halfway. Not all the way, just enough. Someone is going to come find me in 40 seconds, she said. I know. Don't go anywhere. She went back to the couple and I found a spot near the auction tables where I could see most of the room. Priya appeared beside me with a glass of sparkling water and handed it over without comment. She doesn't let people help her, Priya said. Like, she genuinely doesn't. She helps me with things all the time. Priya looked at me like I had said something that confirmed a long-held theory. Yeah, I know she does. We watched Nora across the room. Her shoulders had come down from where they'd been an hour ago. She was laughing at something the ardent VP had said. Real laughter, not the professional kind. For what it's worth, Priya said, Trevor came to 2 of these events. He complained about the parking both times and spent most of the second one on his phone. I figured. She looked at me. You're better. I'm not applying for his job. She smiled a little. No, I don't think that's the position you're interested in. She was called away before I could answer. I turned toward the bar and nearly walked into Trevor. He had a drink and the particular energy of someone who had been waiting to say something. Helpful night for you, he said. Just here to support a friend. His mouth moved. Right, that's a long time to just be a friend. I kept my voice even. Is there something you want to say? He considered this. She's going to pull you in, he said. She's good at making you feel like you're the only one who actually understands her. And then her work takes everything, and she disappears into it. And you realize you've been making yourself available for someone who doesn't know how to let anyone fully in. There was enough truth in it to make it land wrong. Nora did pour herself into her work. She did get quiet when things were hard. She did sometimes forget that being seen wasn't the same thing as being known. But Trevor was using a real thing as a weapon and calling it a warning. I looked at him. You don't get to explain her to me. His expression shifted. You dated her, and you still understood her less than the hotel's luggage staff. I'd think about that before offering anyone advice. He had nothing ready for that. I left him there and went to find Nora. She was in a small side room off the main corridor, standing near a window with a glass of water in both hands, just breathing. The band was playing something low and soft from the ballroom. Through the window, the lake was a flat black shape under the winter sky. She looked over when I came in. Trevor found you, she said. I nodded. She looked at the water. He's not wrong about everything. I know. She glanced up. I told him he doesn't get to narrate you for me, I said. Whatever pieces of truth he's holding, he doesn't get to be the one who tells me what to do with them. She stared at me for a moment. Nora, who always had something ready, who could redirect a broken seating arrangement and a missing centerpiece and a VP's dietary restrictions all in the same breath. She had nothing ready right now. You've been my person, she said finally, for 3 years, and I have worked so hard to make sure you didn't know how much I meant that. I took a step closer. I knew. Her breath was quiet. Since when? Since the first winter, I said. You helped me move that bookshelf, and then you sat on my floor, eating takeout pho, for 2 hours, and told me about the job you'd turned down and leave the city, because you didn't want to leave. And I thought, she didn't leave because of her life here. And then I thought, I want to be part of what she means by that. She closed her eyes for 1 second. Then the door opened and Priya stopped herself from walking all the way in. I'm so sorry, she said, genuinely, but the ardent VP wants a photo with the event team and she's asking for you specifically. And also the band just dedicated a song to the venue management which I think is meant to be you, and it's getting slightly awkward. Nora's mouth curved. She looked at me. Come with me for the photo, she said. Not as the plus one, not as the backup plan. Come because I want you there. I said yes. The way I said yes to everything she asked. She reached for my hand in the corridor outside, where anyone could see. Didn't hide it. Didn't make it casual. I'm tired, she said, of treating this like a thing I have to protect people from. We walked back into the ballroom together, and Priya arranged the photo near the south wall, where the lighting was best. The ardent VP introduced herself to me, as though I were someone who mattered in the room, which was how I knew Nora had already told her something. The photographer arranged us, adjusted the group, and said, "Move closer." Nora moved first. Her hand found the inside of my arm, her shoulder against mine. I looked at her right before the flash. She wasn't pretending anything. Across the room, I saw Trevor set down his drink and leave before the band finished their set. By midnight, the ballroom was mostly cleared. The band had packed up. The auction table was closed. A few late guests lingered near the bar, but the hotel staff moved quietly around them, and the whole room had that particular feeling of an exhaled breath. Nora stood near the registration desk with her clipboard tucked under one arm, watching Priya do a final walkthrough. The centerpieces were the best thing in the room. I was choosing to take some credit for that. Priya came back with her tablet. Numbers look good. Ardent's VP said it was the best event they've had here in 4 years. Chef Renard's salmon plate got a specific compliment, and the missing centerpiece situation is now being called a last-minute signature touch by at least 2 people who have no idea what actually happened. Nora smiled, tired. Good, Priya looked at me. And you, she said, are both useful and apparently impossible to rattle. I prefer structurally important. She pointed between us. I am going home before this gets to the part where I have to pretend I'm not emotional about it. She started toward the elevator and then turned back. For the record, I've worked with Nora for 2 years. She's organized 12 corporate events, 1 product launch, a board of directors dinner, and 1 very tense New Year's gala. I have never once seen her look at anyone the way she looks at you when you're not watching. And then she was gone. The lobby got quiet. The last guests moved through the main doors. Somewhere above us, a door clicked shut, and the whole hotel settled. Nora slipped off one heel, then the other. I looked over. There she is. Don't start. You ran the whole night in those. She held them in one hand and leaned against the reception desk. The burgundy dress brushing the floor, her hair starting to come loose at the back, her lipstick faded enough that she looked like herself. Instead of the version of herself she put on for rooms full of people. That was the Nora I had always trusted most. Not because the other version wasn't real, but because this one was harder to get to. I moved a little closer. Not all the way. So, I said. She looked up. When you said you were tired of treating this like something to protect people from, her fingers tightened on her shoes. Did you mean tonight, I said? Or did you mean us? She didn't look for a door to open. She didn't find something to fix. Us, she said. One word, clear and quiet. And that was it. 4 years of careful language and borrowed distance, and the particular effort of pretending I was only safe because she called me her best friend. All of it sat there between us, named. I stepped closer. She said, I know we should probably have a whole conversation. I know there are things people say about timing and about not risking something good and about how you can't go back once you've said the thing out loud. I know all of that, she said. Okay. But I have been very deliberately not saying something for 3 years, she said, and I am so tired of holding it. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. You were never just safe, I said. You were never just a backup or a constant or a person I kept because you were convenient. You were the person I picked on purpose every time. That was always what this was. She looked at me, and for once she had nothing ready. I kissed her, in the empty lobby of the Lakemont, with the lights still on, and the last centerpieces standing in the outer hall, and the night, finally done, needing her to manage it. It didn't feel like a beginning, exactly. It felt like arriving shipped. It felt like arriving somewhere you had already been moving toward for a long time, without admitting the direction. She kissed me back, like she had been making a very deliberate choice all evening, and had finally finished deciding. Her free hand came to the lapel of my jacket, just holding. I put my hand at her back, lower than the zipper I had fixed 3 hours ago, and she didn't move away. When we pulled back, she kept her forehead near mine. "My feet hurt," she said. "I know. I'm also going to have to debrief with Priya on Monday, and she is going to be insufferable about this. She absolutely is." She laughed quietly into my shoulder. That sound did something to me that the kiss hadn't finished doing. I drove her home a little after midnight. The 427 was quiet going north. She had her shoes off and her feet tucked under her on the passenger seat, which she always did and which had always driven me quietly insane, in a way. I had never let myself examine too carefully before tonight. Her hand was in mine across the console. Every red light on the 427 felt longer than it had any right to. At her building on DuPont, she led us up. Same elevator she'd complained about since September. Same hallway with the heat that came on too strong, same neighbor's welcome mat, with the corner that had been lifted since October. Inside her apartment, she set her clutch on the entry table and turned around. "The zipper," she said. I already knew. I stepped behind her and found the pull. Her hair was already loose enough that I didn't have to hold it. I worked the zipper down slowly, and neither of us pretended it was practical. When I reached the end, I stopped, close enough that my voice was near the back of her neck. "You were remarkable tonight," I said. She shivered. Not dramatically. Just a small thing that moved through her before she could keep it to herself. She turned around, one hand finding my collar, and pulled me toward her. "Write in the comments, do you think Nora was right to wait until it finally became impossible not to say it? Or should she have said it years earlier, when it was harder and the stakes were higher?" She kissed me and I kissed her back, and the question sat in the air behind us unanswered. Which was fine, because the only answer I cared about right now was already standing in front of me. 6 weeks later, Priya stopped me in the lobby of the Lakemont when I came to pick Nora up after a Friday evening close. She looked at me with the measured expression of someone choosing her words. "I want you to know," she said, "that I was right about you from the beginning, and I expect this to be acknowledged." I acknowledged it. She seemed satisfied. "Also," she added, "Nora's been different since that night. Like she put something down that she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten it had weight." I thought about the butter chicken on my couch, the octopus documentary, the bookshelf, 3 years of fries and late-night texts, and the zipper I fixed before she was ready to say what the zipper meant. "I know," I said. "I've been watching her carry it." Priya studied me for a moment. "Good," she said finally, and went back to her work. Nora came through the staff corridor a few minutes later with her coat half on and her bag over one shoulder, and that particular look she got when the evening had gone exactly the way it was supposed to. She saw me by the entrance, and her expression did the thing it had been doing since that night. The professional part stayed. The rest of it went somewhere warmer. "Ready?" she said. I held the door. Nothing important felt new. The same coffee order I knew by heart. The same arguments about which way was faster. Across the city? The same terrible habit she had of finishing my sentences when she already knew where they were going. All of it the same, just finally named.